Have you ever had a feeling about something or a strange fear and wondered where it came from? What if I told you it might not have come from you at all, but from an ancestor you've never even met? It's this wild idea that blurs the line between science and philosophy, and today we're diving deep into the science of what's called genetic memory. I mean, just think about that for a second. Can you really inherit your ancestors' memories? The idea that the triumphs and traumas of your great-grandparents could be somehow woven into your DNA, shaping the person you are today. Is that just the stuff of science fiction, or is there some real biology behind it? Well, let's find out. So first off, this idea, it's not new. Not at all. The feeling that we carry pieces of our ancestors inside us is an ancient one. You can find it in philosophies and mythologies from all over the world for thousands of years. And maybe the most famous version of this idea comes from the psychologist Carl Jung. He had this theory of a collective unconscious, this shared, inherited pool of instincts, archetypes, and deep memories. Now, to be clear, he wasn't talking about DNA, but it just goes to show you how powerful and persistent this idea of inherited memory really is. And this right here really gets to the heart of it. On one side, you have that ancient intuition, this almost romantic idea that we can inherit actual memories, maybe even skills. But on the other side, you have what modern science is uncovering, which is something way more subtle and honestly, maybe even more fascinating. These things called epigenetic imprints. Okay, so before we can even begin to talk about inheriting a memory, we have to get a handle on how you make a memory right now. How does your own brain take an experience and turn it into something you can recall later? Well, it all comes down to something called synaptic plasticity. It sounds complicated, but the core idea is pretty simple. Your experiences physically reshape the connections between your brain cells. Every single time you learn something new, the wiring in your brain literally changes. That's not a metaphor, it's just biology. So a memory isn't some foggy, mystical thing. It's physical. It's stored in the architecture of your brain. Proteins are moving around, strengthening or weakening connections. And what's absolutely incredible is that now, with tools like AI and advanced microscopy, scientists can actually watch this happen. They can see the physical shape of a memory being formed. And here is the single most important point of this section. The memory of your first kiss, the plot of your favorite movie, the skills you learned, all that stuff that's encoded in the physical structure of your brain is not passed down to your children through your DNA. It just isn't. So is that it then? Case closed? If our brain's memories aren't passed down, is that the end of the story? Not even close. To find the real answer, we have to look beyond the brain, because it turns out our bodies have another kind of memory, one that's happening deep inside every single one of our cells. It's called transcriptional memory. Think about it. A skin cell and a brain cell in your body have the exact same DNA, the same instruction manual. So how does a skin cell remember to be a skin cell its whole life? That's transcriptional memory. It's the cell's memory of which genes to turn on and which to ignore. And the way this works is just mind-blowing. Our DNA isn't just a long string. It's folded up into these incredibly complex 3D shapes. And scientists have discovered that the geometry of those folds, the actual shape, acts like a tiny computational device, encoding the cell's memory of its identity. I love this metaphor because it's so perfect. The cellular memory isn't just about flicking genes on or off. It's much more sophisticated. It's like a dimmer dial, constantly fine-tuning how active a gene is, turning it up a little or down a little, which allows for all the incredible complexity in our bodies. And this isn't just abstract science. This stuff matters. Researchers now believe that as we get older, this cellular memory can start to degrade. Those dimmer dials get a little faulty. And this erosion is being linked to aging itself and even to diseases like Alzheimer's. Okay, so we've got brain memory, which we don't inherit, and cellular memory, which keeps our own bodies running. So how do we bridge that gap from one generation to the next? Well, the answer lies in a revolutionary field called epigenetics. And there's one famous experiment with mice that illustrates it perfectly. All right, here's the setup. It's pretty simple. Scientists take a mouse and they teach it to fear the smell of cherry blossoms. They do this by pairing that scent with a tiny, harmless electric shock. The mouse learns the association. Cherry blossoms mean trouble. Then, that mouse has pups. And this is the crucial part. These baby mice are never exposed to the smell of cherry blossoms. They never get a shock, They have absolutely zero personal experience with this fear their father learned. So here it is, the million-dollar question. Do those pups, against all logic, somehow inherit a fear they've never been taught? And the answer, which sent shockwaves through the scientific community, was yes. Unbelievably, yes. The offspring and even the next generation were born jumpy and fearful of that one specific scent, with nervous systems that were biologically more sensitive to it. So how on earth is that possible? Well, this is the magic of epigenetics. See, the father's fearful experience didn't change the code of his DNA. Instead, it added little chemical tags on top of his DNA. You can think of them like Post-it notes that tell a gene, pay attention to this or ignore this. And some of those Post-it notes were passed down to his kids. Okay, let's tie all of this together. We've talked about brain memory, cellular memory, and these epigenetic Post-it notes. So let's go all the way back to our original question. What is it we actually inherit? This chart breaks it down perfectly. You've got your brain memory, recalling specific events stored in your brain's wiring, which is not inherited. And then you have these genetic or epigenetic imprints. These aren't memories. They're biological predispositions, sensitivities, stored as chemical marks on your DNA. And those, yes, to some degree, they can be inherited. So here's the bottom line. You don't inherit your great-grandmother's memory of her village, but you might inherit a biological sensitivity to stress that was shaped by the famine she survived. You don't inherit a specific phobia, but you might inherit a nervous system that's just a little bit more on high alert because your ancestors lived through dangerous times. We don't inherit the recordings, we inherit the echoes. And I want to leave you with this idea because I think it's just beautiful. A palimpsest is an ancient piece of parchment that was written on, then scraped clean so something new could be written, but you can always see the faint traces of the old text underneath. And in a very real, biological sense, that's what we are. We're living palimpsests, our own unique stories written on top of the faint chemical echoes of all the lives that came before us.